Welcome back. Gabe Simmons finally joining us after his long hiatus for the third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, seventh time. Sabbatical. He's been on a
All right, see y'all
sabbatical.
boys
Let's put it
later.
like that.
I have homework to do.
Yeah. But really, welcome back, Gabe. You missed a decent amount of little postseason baseball.
Yeah, it's the way it is.
Just a tad. Just a tad. But we're going to start on a more depressing note for Ryan than anybody. We're going to start with the New York Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays here. And it kind of exactly what Ryan said would happen, and that was the lack of Yankees pitching. Tanaka didn't step up when he needed to. What are we really expecting from J.A. Happ, Jordan Montgomery, and whomever, Devi Garcia, and whomever else pitched for the Yankees at this point? Exactly what happened. So I'll let Ryan give his unadulterated thoughts off first.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really going to get out of this one. I think I had less confidence in the Yankees last week than you did. And I waffled back and forth between taking them and the Rays. I thought that was the most even second-round matchup of any of them. I really think the 5 games in 5 days hurt the Yankees, especially having Severino, Paxton, and Tommy Kahnle, who very underrated piece in that bullpen. I think his absence is not going to get talked about enough. It's going to go back to the lack of starting pitching. But not having him out of the bullpen, especially with how Ottavino struggled this year, really hurt them because it was more or less Chad Green, Zach Britton, and Aroldis Chapman, and nobody else out of the pen for the Yankees. And the Rays had the pitching depth. You saw Game 5, 3 solo homers were all the runs that were scored the entire game. And Yankees very easily could have won the Game 5, could have won that series. It's tough, but it's hard for me to sit around with the injuries they had at the trade deadline. I know it's a shortened. There wasn't a move made at the deadline to get some pitching. I mean, all 3 of their impact arms that were out, Paxton, Severino, and Kahnle, were out by the trade deadline. We knew what we had and sat on our hands and back and bit us.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it. You hit it right on the head there.
And Game 5 was boring. 6 hits, and like you said, 3 solo homers.
It was not boring.
Well, pitching
was
probably
boring
exciting
for a non-Yankees, non-Rays fan.
It was very. I was on the edge of my seat the entire game because in a game that close, you knew one swing was going to change the game. I mean that.
Yeah, you have to be really invested. Like, as a pitcher, I would love appreciating. I love watching Zach Britton pitch or Garrett Cole even throw the ball. But if you're just a casual fan who wants to see runs and homers, and well, I guess the homers were there, but yeah, that's besides the point. Yeah, Tampa Bay Rays. We've been saying it all year. Tampa Bay Rays are good. Their pitching is outstanding. I can't speak too much to it because I haven't seen a ton of them, but just in the 3-game series in which they single-handedly eliminated the Phillies by sweeping them, yeah, they got some freaking depth. Like, their back of the bullpen 7th, 8th, 9th guy was out there just throwing 95 cut fastballs, darting all over the place with a filthy curveball. Like, yeah, it's no wonder they're here. Their offense does enough. There was a team I was thinking about recently that I kind of compare them to. It slipped my mind now. Royals maybe a few years ago when they had that outstanding bullpen. Nah, I don't know. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
What really sets the Rays apart for me is they have bullpen depth, and I mean so do the Yankees. But the difference is their bullpen depth can go 2 to 3 innings. There's not a single guy in that bullpen that is a 3 to 5 batter guy, and definitely not a sit down and get back up guy. I mean that was very showed in Game 5 when they went Glasnow for 2 1/3. Nick Anderson, who's supposed one of their closers. I mean everyone's a closer at this point in their pen. Goes 2 2/3. Fairbanks goes 2 innings, and then Diego Castillo goes 2 innings. And these aren't guys who are control guys, pinpoint guys. These are guys who run it up their 98 with sink with a lot of movement, and they have no problem sitting up and getting right back up for the next inning. And that's what really separates them. I would tip my cap more to the Rays pitching, especially here in Game 5. I mean, holding LeMahieu 0-4, Stanton 0-3, Voit 0-3, Urshela 0-4, and Gardner 0-2 is something really see. It's really something to stand back and see how good that is. Not allowing a single Yankee to have a multi-hit game. especially with that lineup. I mean, only
three total hits.
Yeah, Judge had one, Hicks has one, and Gleyber Torres has one, and that's it.
Gleyber Torres was pretty fantastic in the series, by the way.
Yeah, he was great in the first round too. Went 4 for 4 in Game 1 against Cleveland, including a big homer. He was great all postseason, which kind of surprised me, given how he played in the regular season. But
one thing I want to touch on, I think we've seen this a bit in the past now, especially in the playoffs. Teams throwing like guys 2-3 innings at a time, and we've played travel baseball where that was kind of the norm. Like especially in tournament play, it was not really about limiting innings. It was just like you throw a guy 2-3 innings, and you throw the next guy 2-3 innings, and what's the big deal about that? I don't know why teams. Do you think that's gonna be a thing in the future? I think the only thing that's holding teams back from doing that right now is like the 5-inning rule to get a win for a starting pitcher, because we're starting to see now relief pitchers are just as good as the starters, if not better at times, especially with teams like the Rays.
I don't think it's a decision. I think it's not enough teams have enough guys to do it.
Okay, that's fair.
I can tell you that even with the Braves bullpen, which this year has been extremely good, they have like 5 guys, and in no way, shape, or form can we do that every game. And the Braves bullpen solid, so I can't imagine a team like the Mets or the Royals or a bottom third team really being able to do it. And really, outside of the Rays, Yankees,
sure,
I don't think there's other teams that can do it.
Dodgers.
Yeah,
it would take a team. It would take a team to have like 6-7 quality starters, and then maybe a relief guy who throw 2-3 innings at a time, kind of like the Rays have. But my thing is, I think teams train relief pitchers to go 1 inning. My whole point is, if you start training guys to go 2-3 innings, because these guys, when they're in high school, I guarantee they're starting pitchers. You're not going to have coaches in high school have a guy throw 90 miles an hour and not throw them as long as possible. So they can go longer. It's just how they're being trained in the professionals. So are we going to see a movement where they start training these guys to go 2-3 innings at a time? I don't know. But I think the Rays are showing that it can work.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before in the playoffs with the Royals a little bit, with the Indians, especially in 2016.
Andrew Miller, yeah.
Andrew Miller, very unconventionally, and that's still the example that a lot of us go back to talking about that. But I think a little bit of it is just like not necessarily not wanting to buck the trend, but if you were to go full on like opener every game and use your bullpen like that, like they did with Glasnow, I think it's easier to project your kind of availability of arms with the traditional starter system, and nobody wants to run those guys out there 2-3 innings and then screw up your bullpen availability, and now all of a sudden you've got games in limbo because you mismanaged your bullpen potentially. Now it could work out fine, but I think that's part of the hesitancy to use it in practice.
Sure. I think the flip side of that is you have a different schedule now. Like you have a guy, the starting pitcher, let's not call it innings. Let's go by pitches. Let's say this guy's going to throw 50 pitches. If that gets us through 3, 4, or 5 innings, whatever it may be, great. And the next guy's going to throw 35 pitches. Whatever they want to draw it up as. You can make a pretty reasonably reliable schedule, I think, from that. Then you have your 3 or 4 guys in the back end. Obviously, if the game goes extra innings, that would be a problem. But I think it could work. It's possible. It's just you don't want to be that team to buck the trend and it blows up in your face and you look terrible and you're fired.
Yep.
Yeah, last final thought here on this series. Yankees definitely had production out of 2 guys I didn't expect in Torres and Stanton. Meanwhile, they had a lack of production from 2 guys I expected to do a lot in Aaron Judge and DJ LeMahieu. Kind of flip-flopped. I mean, I guess at the end, whether those were flip-flopped or not, it would have came out to the same outcome. But I really expected it to go, like, the other way.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing we touched on last week, Justin, that the Yankees lineup is just so dangerous. And you can reasonably expect contributions from anybody in their lineup 1 through 9. And we're a couple balls being hit differently from talking about this series in a completely different light. But I mean, that's when you've got guys. A lot of teams can't stand having their best 2 hitters not be productive in a playoff series. But the Yankees are so deep that you've got 2 guys, Judge and LeMahieu, who don't do much, and then you have 2 other guys, Stanton and Torres, step up that could legitimately be the best two hitters on half the teams in Major League Baseball.
Yep. No, I agree.
Criminally rated. Brett Gardner had a fantastic series too.
Glad to see that for him because he's another one that didn't have a great regular season.
Yeah, I was about to say didn't have the greatest regular season, but yeah, I think the Yankees fought hard, but I think the Rays just frankly they're the better team this year. It's the way it is. Next year may be different.
Yeah,
but this year I think the Rays are better.
Yeah, it came down to pitching, and we saw that in Game 5.
Yeah.
Moving on to the other side of the American League, Houston, Oakland, and exactly kind of what I expected happened. The Astros hit the crap out of the baseball, and that was apparent. Carlos Correa hit the crap out of the baseball. Everyone in that lineup hit the crap out of the baseball. The Athletics, and me and Ryan have said this for a while. We said it last pod. We've said it on every pod we talk about Oakland. Is I will never hang my hat on the no-name Oakland staff, on the rotation, on the bullpen. I know what their numbers say. I'm not going to continue to reiterate this point because I've said it so many times, but that's really what it came down to, and the Astros just kind of bit them over.
Yeah, I feel like kind of a prophet because I think I said this was way, way back when we were doing a season previews. I think I said, watch out for the Astros if they make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, they're going to be a very dangerous team because in the regular season, everyone's going to give them their absolute very best to beat them just because of the whole situation that's going on with them. Once you get to the playoffs and everyone's always trying their best, this is a dangerous team. They got a very good offense that underperformed significantly in the regular season. If they get hot, yeah, they're dangerous. They're very dangerous. I think this series with the Rays could be a really good one.
And they are battle tested. They've all been there.
Yeah.
5 guys with over 1,000 OPS this series: Springer, Altuve, Brantley, Bregman, and Correa. When you're getting that production out of your 5 stars, you're going to win the series 99.9% of the time, whether your pitching is there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys were the reason that they had an underwhelming and under 500 regular season, and they are also the reason that they won that playoff series. Coming up at the right times, that part of that battle testedness. Oakland doesn't have it. Houston does, even though I think you could argue that Oakland is a better team right now, even with Matt Chapman being out, Matt Olson underperforming, Semien underperforming, and the way the Astros play in the regular season. But when it comes down to crunch time, they're there.
Yep.
Yeah. Carlos Correa batted 500. God, I hate that dude, man. If you're going to talk, put your money where your mouth is, and he has, so you can't say anything. If you're going to play this well, talk all you want. I guess. Unbelievable series from Correa. I mean, absolutely just dropping dick on balls. There's no other way to put it. I mean, just crushing balls all over the place.
We're in a very... Yeah. Definitely. He had a fantastic series.
I can't take away from what he's done at the plate, but I can't help but think that there's a fundamental difference in his situation and the way he is running his mouth versus a guy like Acuna and where he's talking smack at.
I don't know. I feel like if you're playing that well,
circumstances there.
That's fair, but if you're playing that well, I mean, you can't really say anything back. It's like I will say, I still hate the Astros.
I was gonna say, I think I've got a little bit more pent up Astros hate than you.
So we may be in one of the most polarized times of our country's history. Election season coming up, but I think one thing 99% of Americans can agree on is we all want the freaking Astros to lose.
Yeah, except for Rob Manfred. He wants them to win.
Oh, come on.
He needs them to win.
I think Manfred wants the Dodgers to win.
Yeah.
Dude, we'll touch on this a little bit, but if we get a Braves-Rays World Series, I think Manfred will implode just because he had it perfectly set up.
Didn't I predict that? Braves-Rays? I swear I picked that.
You may have. You want to go back like 12 pods?
Yeah, this is my old one.
Braves-Yankees, sadly. I was close.
I'm pretty sure I picked Braves-Rays.
Final thoughts on the final series of the ALDS. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. The Astros dropped dick, and the Athletics sucked.
24 home runs by the two teams combined. Didn't that break some sort of record?
I'm
Had
sure
But yes.
it did.
That's incredible. Both teams hit 12
That's
in
just
4
really
games.
I
Yeah.
will say, big shout out Virginia Tech and 757 native Chadwick Pinder at 308 with the one. Dude, that's what MLB Bleacher Report tweeted. It said Chadwick Pinder. I was like, when has anyone ever called him Chadwick? But whatever, Bleacher Report. I know you don't watch baseball. Do your thing.
I'm not even sure that his actual name is Chadwick. I think it really may just be Chad.
Who calls their kid Chadwick? This is not the 1800s.
Yeah, not a good look by a good old Bleacher Report. But hey, man,
Come on, please.
here we are. He had a heck of a series. But no.
Playoffs in general. He
Yeah.
did great.
Yeah, pitching really let Oakland down. That's my
Yeah.
final thought. Yep. Moving on, let's go over to the NL. We'll start Braves Marlins because I feel like this one's going to be short. The Marlins couldn't hit the baseball. Ian Anderson and Kyle Wright shoved it down their throats. Braves bullpen, it looked unbelievable in the first 2 series. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to sit here and hype up the Braves for beating the Miami Marlins as they should have.
I'm just happy the Marlins got us to laugh at the Cubs again. That made my year. Made me a little happier after they got everyone to laugh at the Phillies.
I can rest peacefully now knowing that my personal guarantee that the Marlins won't win the World Series is safe.
Yeah, I'll start getting a little scared.
I was getting nervous there for a little bit, especially when they went up early in Game 1. I was like, oh my God, they're going to do it, aren't they?
Oh, dude, I chalked it. I was sitting there at work. I checked my phone. It said Marlins score 4. I literally texted my dad, said Marlins are beating us. I was like, dude, I'm chalking this series. I literally was about to like turn it on my phone. Oh, that's what happened. Was watching it on my phone at work, and that's when we were up 1-0. I had to help a couple customers. Came back, checked my phone, was 4-1, turned off the live broadcast, texted my dad, said Miami's winning, and locked my phone and didn't bring it back up.
Dang.
But no, big shout out to both those guys, Wright and Ian Anderson, 2 rookies really making a big impact against the Marlins. But also Travis d'Arnaud hit 600, had a 2,092 OPS in 3 games. Was unbelievable. Swanson had a good series, but again, they're playing the Marlins, and I'm not going to gas them up and get my hopes up any much higher than they already are.
And they blasted Sixto Sanchez, though. That's a pretty encouraging sign. Game 3.
Yeah.
How was Sixto Sanchez? I didn't obviously watch the game. Was he just like all over the place?
Yeah, and one thing led
He
to
was
another.
great in the regular season.
Yeah, one thing led to another. You're facing really good hitters. But
yeah,
that wraps up my conclusion on that. Ian Anderson's a bona fide stud. That's my final thought.
Is this when was the last time the Braves made the NLCS?
19 years ago.
Wait, seriously?
I believe that was the first playoff series the Braves have won in it's been some time. I don't think it cannot be 19 years. Hold on.
No, can't. They were eliminated in LDS 03. That's pretty sure about that.
Well, that doesn't bode well.
That Cardinals, was that like 2011 with the Cardinals and that infield fly rule? Was that was DS, right?
Was that the DS or wild card?
Wild card game.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Wild card game. Okay, yeah.
Franchise pages.
That wasn't 2011 then, right?
I think it was 2011.
Yeah.
I think it was like the first year they did it. Or 2012, something like that. I got it right here. NLCS was 2001. You were right, Justin. Wow. That's embarrassing. Those good teams they've had.
The Twins haven't won a playoff game since 2003, something like that. They've lost 18 in a row.
Yeah.
I think the Twins need to claim a 15th Amendment or something on the Yankees because the Yankees own them. It's not funny.
Everyone owns them.
The Astros too.
Yeah, but let's move over to this last series, Padres Dodgers. Really seemed like a very exciting series until you kind of see that the Dodgers swept them. Obviously a very exciting game too, but other than that, the Dodgers had it pretty handily, which doesn't really surprise me, pointing towards San Diego's lack of pitching depth. It's kind of what we all talked about all regular season. They acquired Mike Clevenger, who ends up only pitching 2 innings in the series. Zach Davies going as your number 2 guy, can't expect much there. That's really only San Diego's problem. Still hit the ball well, but The Dodgers are the Dodgers, the best team in baseball.
Yep. Best team in baseball. Best two teams. Yankees, I guess you make an argument, but I think as of right now, the best two teams in baseball are meeting up the NLCS. So that's gonna be an interesting series. I think the Dodgers should be favored, but I could easily see the Braves pulling one out, although it won't be easy.
Can we talk about for a second San Diego? One, tough series for the Padres. The Dodgers are a juggernaut. They're the best team in baseball, and it's not particularly close. It's them and everybody else. And not having your top two pitchers hurts a ton. Game 2 was close. It easily could have been 1-1 going into Game 3. But can we talk about Jace Tingler's bullpen management for a minute? He managed to, with the current 3-batter minimum, he managed to use 11 pitchers in a 9-inning game in Game 3. You talking about the Rays throwing guys 2-3 innings. Jace Tingler's throwing dudes for 2/3 of an inning, 1/3 of an inning, and getting them out of there. They used a bunch of guys in the wild card round, too. I think all 3 games they used at least 8 or 9 guys every game.
Yeah, it's usually a good. It's a good way to give up 12 runs.
Yeah.
No, but the final result is that. But I thought he did a decent job. Again, this is kind of exactly what I pointed to earlier. Is a team like the Rays can do it because they have the pieces to do it, and I'm not hanging my hat on Altavia, Strom, Pomeranz. I don't care how much money he got. I'm not hanging my hat on Drew Pomeranz. Latino and Stamen to be able to do kind of what the Rays do.
No doubt about it. However, I do think the Padres will be back, because as Ryan aptly pointed out, they've lost 2 of their best pitchers, and they have some young talent there, obviously. Fernando Tatis very well might win an MVP award this year, so
no,
probably not. But I mean,
not anymore. He was on track.
Freddie Freeman.
It's been a while since I've tracked it very closely. Is Freeman the favorite right now?
He led the league in WAR.
Good for him.
Objectively, if Freddie doesn't win it, that will be a travesty.
Okay, good. Somebody. He deserves one.
He's been too good. This is my Bobby Shmurda confession track. I will kill someone.
But anyway, getting back to the point. They got some young talent there in San Diego. They'll be back. Good-looking team. Dodgers just better at this point in time, especially with those injuries.
I hope they trade Machado while he's high in value. I'm going to be honest with you.
Who do you trade him to?
That was what I was about to ask.
I'm not talking about from them. I'm just talking from the Padres. I hope they trade him to somebody. I don't know, but I do not. I just don't like the dude. But
that would be the prudent thing to do. But the Marlins couldn't even unload Giancarlo after an MVP season with a similar contract. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and I think Machado's a tad bit of a locker room cancer as well.
A little bit.
That doesn't help. At least it's not injury prone.
Baby steps. Baby steps for Giancarlo. No, but I mean the Padres have to hand it to them. Unbelievable season this year. We knew it was going to be some team that did it like this. I really didn't expect the Padres, but hey, hats off to them. Tatis, unbelievable season. A lot of guys having bounce back seasons. Hosmer, Pham, Will Myers, Machado. They all had really good seasons this year.
Yep.
Won't talk about the future now. Don't think that's appropriate in the time. Obviously, that's what the off season's for. But hats off. But Dodgers just a better team. That's about how it is.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of these ALCS matchups, or I said matchups. Let's get into the ALCS matchup here. Houston Rays starting October 11th. I want the advantages for each team. I think these teams are literally built opposite. The Rays built their bullpen. They built their starting staff. They built the defense. And Houston just said, yeah, we're just going to get a lot of hitters and hit our way through ball games. And the Rays are like, we're going to piece together a lineup that might work based on platoon splits. We're going to figure out a way to scrap runs, and we're going to let our pitching dominate. So this is going to be an insane series.
Yeah, it's basically money. Well, I guess the Astros kind of average, but the team that has a good amount of money versus the Rays. And I think Oakland was kind of like the poster child for obviously they are the poster child, the Moneyball teams, quote unquote. But I think the Rays have surpassed in recent years in terms of being able to go deeper into the playoffs. The Rays know what they're doing. The Rays and Athletics have done a very good job with that. But back to the point, as you said, Justin, the Rays have built up a team based on these lower value guys, the bullpen arms that no one really looks twice at if they don't really need a bullpen arm. They don't have money for it. Those platoon guys that only hit righties well or only hit lefties well. Like other teams that have the money, it's just like, who needs those guys? Or they don't say that, but you know what I'm trying to say. They undervalue them. And the Rays said, okay, well, this is how we're going to build our roster. This is how it's give us the best chance to win. We'll trade for starting pitchers, kind of like Tyler Glasnow, that are severely undervalued at the time, and then we'll trust our coaching staff, which is excellent.
Austin Meadows too.
Yeah, Austin Meadows. Yeah, they've done a fantastic job getting a team, and I'm really rooting for them. Well, I think everyone is, but yeah.
Speaking of how the team's built, shout out to their GM Eric Meander. He's a Virginia Tech alum.
Hey.
But no, yeah, Rays are extremely well built. Justin, that's a great dichotomy you mentioned there. The way the two teams are built. Completely opposite. I really like the Rays in this series. I think I believe I don't think they're getting days off still in between games.
It's only in the World Series I get days off.
Yeah, they're playing straight through. We talked about the Rays pitching depth already. I think that's going to really help them. Or that plays in their favor, not having days off with the depth they have. I think it's going to hurt the Astros, especially without having Verlander. Just having to run potentially 7 games in a row, not having as much pitching depth, is going to starve the Astros a little bit. And I think the Yankees are a better team than the Astros, and we saw, and lineup-wise too, I think the Yankees have a better lineup, and we saw the Rays were able to shut them down. The Astros lineup doesn't necessarily worry me in regards to the Rays pitching, but the Astros' lack of pitching depth does really worry me, and I got to take Tampa.
How many games?
Can I say 6.5? I'll go 6.
All right.
I have a very bad feeling about this series. Just because Houston's offense looks absolutely electric right now.
Don't say that. Did the Yankees' offense not look electric in the wild card round against Cleveland and Game 1 against Tampa?
The Yankees' offense wasn't bad against Tampa, except in the last game.
Yeah. No, they were good outside of that.
Yeah, they didn't look as good as the Houston Astros look right now. 5 guys OPSing against Oakland. Again, I'm not huge on their on Oakland's pitching staff, but at the same time, I have a bad gut feeling about this. Houston looks alive. They look banded together. They look like a team who can do it. And if Valdez and Greinke and whomever, Lance McCullers Jr., who deleted his Twitter the other day because he couldn't take the smack talk, which is absolutely hilarious. Man's literally deactivated his Twitter. Hilarious. But if they can hold the Rays to 4 runs a game, I really think Houston can win this series. I'm going Houston in 6.
Ooh, wow.
I have a bad feeling.
This thought just popped in my mind when you said you had a bad feeling, Justin. For you conspiracy theorists out there, it's interesting that the Astros just had a losing record in the regular season, and they suddenly remembered how to hit the ball in the playoffs again. Wonder if they thought of a new strategy on how to do that. But that's just for conspiracy theory. I don't think that's actually happening.
If they win the World Series by hitting their way to it, I'm all on that conspiracy theory.
No, I mean like if they found another way to cheat.
I know. Saying if they make a run and they do it by hitting the piss out of the ball, I'm all on that conspiracy theory train.
Fair enough.
All right.
But anyway, so that's obviously probably not happening, but just want to throw it out there. Anyway, So for my series prediction, it's the Astros just weren't there in the regular season. Once Verlander went down and their offense just kind of, I don't know. 29-31, I know 60 games is a small sample size and all that. We've talked about that a million times. I just like the Rays. I think their pitching's too strong. Even with those few days off, which are more advantageous to hitters. I just think the Rays are too deep pitching wise. But I think it'll be close. The Astros are hitting well right now. I'll go 7. I think it's going to go 7. I think it's going to be a very tight series, but I'm going to give it the edge to Tampa.
All right. One other prediction here before we kind of touch on what we think this means for Houston. Who's your X factor for each team here? I can start us off. I think for the Rays, it has to be Brandon Lau. He is really he's been their best hitter all season. They're gonna need him to really drive in some runs after a abysmal, and I mean absolutely abysmal, ALDS where he had a 182 OPS. He's gonna have to pick it up for them. And on the other side for Houston, I think it's Valdez. Valdez is starting game 1. Hasn't been talked about very much, but he's definitely, I would say, their best pitcher right now. And he's going to have to give them 2 good games here to really match Blake Snell and then whomever else he faces down the line.
I guess I can go next. Ji-Man Choi, just because his name sounds awesome, and also Yoshi Tsutsugu. I don't know.
Here we go with Gabe and his Japanese players again.
But it's fun to say.
Oh, you weeb.
No, in all seriousness though, I like your Brandon Lau pick actually. I think I'm gonna stick with that. But for the Astros, I'm gonna go Zach Greinke in Game 2. He's really struggled in the regular season compared to what we typically expect from Zach Greinke. He's getting up there in age, so that's kind of to be expected. But this is the playoffs now. And if they want to be moving on to the World Series here, Zach Greinke's going to need to pitch a good game or 2. So probably 2. That's going to be my pick.
All right. I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to pick 2 different guys from what you said just to get some other highlights in there. Because I do think Brandon Lau will bounce back. You can't really be any worse than he was in the ALDS. So I'm going to go with Randy Arozarena. He's hit the piss out of the ball the first 2 rounds. He's already got, I think, 12 hits in the playoffs. He had 20 hits the entire regular season. He's played the lights out in the playoffs. He's got to continue that to really help them out, especially not having those big boppers in the middle of the lineup like the Astros and the Yankees do. And for the Astros, I'm going to go with their bullpen just as a collective group. I think Greinke is a veteran enough that he'll turn in some solid performances come crunch time. I'm a pretty decent believer in Lance McCullers. I think he's got good stuff. Valdez has been excellent this season and excellent in the playoffs so far. But we talked about the pitching depth. They're going to have to get solid performances out of their bullpen, especially with Roberto Ozuna being hurt. So we'll see if they can get that.
Yeah, good picks. Just last little note I want to bring up. What on earth if Houston makes it back to the World Series? Oof. The baseball world may implode. And I am not kidding you.
I will spontaneously combust.
I can already hear Carlos Correa right now telling us we can all suck him. And I mean word for word telling us to suck him.
If there is one person in this world I could slap across the head with a 2x4, it might be Correa.
You'll like it cut, G.
So hear me out on this. I don't think it would be a good thing for baseball if the Astros made the World Series. I think it would be a fantastic thing for baseball if they made the World Series. One thing that we have been missing in recent years in baseball is that big villain. In recent years, I think the NFL had like the Seahawks, the Patriots, obviously the most notable one. There's always that villain you can root against. Baseball hasn't really had that. It's been very, what's the word?
There's been a lot of parity. We haven't had a repeat champion since the Yankees in 99-2000.
Right. So the Yankees, it probably still is to a smaller extent, much smaller extent. But now that the Astros obviously got caught up this whole cheating thing, they won a World Series recently. They stole it from a team. I put that in air quotes. They stole it from a team that has been fighting for one for well over a decade now with fantastic teams, the Dodgers. Yeah, they're the new villain in baseball, and I think that's a very good thing. So I think if we had a World Series in 2020 with this whole pandemic situation going on, which pits the villain versus literally anyone else, that can only be a good thing, in my opinion. Now, what do we want to see in the World Series? Of course, I'd like to see the Astros lose. I think everyone does. But I'm just throwing that out there.
Fair take.
Yeah, I agree with you. for the sake of my own conscience, I'm not going to call it a good thing, but I agree with you.
Yep. But moving on over to the NL. Atlanta, LA, October 12th start. I mean, the Dodgers are on paper the best team in baseball. When I say on paper, I mean there's numbers as well. Obviously,
that's objective and subjectively the best team.
Yeah. Mookie Betts obviously MVP candidate this year. Bellinger's had a lot better postseason. He's bounced back a little bit. Kershaw, Buehler. There's nowhere to point at this team that says downfall other than maybe some bullpen stuff. Kenley Jansen isn't the closer he once was. Joe Kelly's a little shaky. But again, not a bad bullpen. We're not talking about a bottom third bullpen. We're just talking about not as good as the Rays or the Yankees right now.
Not top 5.
Right. Which is the only thing on the Dodgers that isn't top 5 is their bullpen.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you could somehow make the argument for them still being in the top 5 for bullpens. That's the bad thing about it. Which means this all hinges on how can the Braves take 4 games. It's a series where I think the Dodgers are going to have to give away one for the Braves really to be able to win this. Braves offense, unbelievable this season. Second most runs scored in baseball. They have a deep lineup. Bullpen was unbelievable this year. Not the names that the Yankees have, but very similar to the Rays. They all put up really good numbers. We've seen that all postseason. Will Smith has finally figured it out after a pretty average regular season. Mark Melancon has been good. But obviously, the issue falls with Max Fried and Ian Anderson and question marks, a whole lot of question marks after that. At this point, Ian Anderson, after 8 starts, still has a sub-2 ERA. He has the stuff to do it. I'm not hanging my hat on Kyle Wright. I'm definitely not hanging my hat on Husker Yanoa. So yeah, it's going to be basically, can the Braves pitching staff keep them in the game?
Am I reading this correctly? Am I seeing that the Dodgers pitched to a 3.02 ERA during the regular season? Is that correct?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Did I just die?
Yeah,
what is that?
They were pretty good.
The Braves finished in the top half of the National League with a 4.41 ERA, and the Dodgers finished, obviously, first with a 3.02. What is happening? Yeah, that's...
Walker Buehler had the worst ERA in their starting rotation.
3.44. What?
You know what the Braves need? You know who needs to make his appearance? Playoff Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
That's who needs to make his appearance. He hasn't made it yet. He needs to make it this series.
That might be the only thing that gives the Braves a chance, if I'm being completely honest.
Oh, I know. You don't have to tell me that twice.
Kershaw implosion.
Which is very possible. Based on past trends, it is possible.
Yeah. I'm not going to count that up.
I would say that you're being a little dramatic about the Braves trying to find 4 games there, Justin. But, I mean, when a team finishes 43-17, and by the way, that is not a fluke. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Dodgers are going to need to give a game away. Playoff Kershaw, like you said, they need to show up. And the Braves, I think the key in the series is going to be the Braves starting rotation. Yep. I think you mentioned that already, Justin. Max Fried needs to show up like he did. Kyle Wright needs to throw a good game. Yeah, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, look in the Braves rotation. You have Fried, you have Ian Anderson, who I think at this point are both plenty good arms to match up with Buehler and Kershaw. They're not nearly as good. Let me make that clear. I'm not saying that in any which way, shape, or form, but they are plenty good enough starting pitchers. Kyle Wright's a question mark, and God knows who the Braves' 4th starter is right now.
Touki Toussaint.
I don't even think he's on the 40-man anymore. that is where we're at. Can Felix Hernandez possibly get active on the roster? Rough. You hit it right on the nose. Pablo Sandoval is on the Braves, by the way, if you didn't know that.
I think I heard of that.
Yeah, but it's either Brycey Wilson or Husker going game 4, which is scary.
Maybe a bullpen game. Honestly.
Yeah, we would have that would really count on Ian Anderson going deep. I think it would have to be Anderson and Fried both going deep to preserve a few innings.
I think they have to, because I'm just looking at the Braves right now, their bullpen rotation. They had 2 guys with an ERA plus, in their starting rotation, I should clarify, with an ERA plus over 200. Holy crap. And then literally everyone else was 92 or below, and most were well below that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's extremely top-heavy, and when you're playing with a roster like that, it's I'm trying to think of a relationship to like you have to take risks essentially. You have to throw guys a little bit longer than you typically would. You need to get the innings out of the guys to your higher quality pitchers. This is the time to shoot all your bullets, right? No reason to save them.
On the bright side, Ian Anderson had a sub-2 during the ERA or during the regular season and haven't given up one run in the postseason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you have to throw him 120, 25 pitches, you do it. Now's the time to shoot those bullets.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I really have to wonder kind of what this series outlook would be like if Soroka hadn't gone down. Oh. I mean, that's the knock we're talking about with the Braves right now is Fried and Anderson have pitched well, but who is it after that? I think Soroka changes that dynamic a little bit. And I mean, as good as Fried and Anderson were in the regular season, I mean, it's not like a Verlander Cole of 2019 or a Strasburg Scherzer of last year. It's a question mark. They're good, but a veteran playoff season team like the Dodgers, I don't expect Fried and Anderson to pitch as well as they did in the regular season. Will they turn in solid starts? Probably. Will they go 7 innings with 90 pitches deep? No.
The Dodgers are not the Marlins.
Yeah.
Thankfully for the Braves, they do have the number 2 offense in the National League behind only the Dodgers. So
yeah.
While the Dodgers have pitched outstandingly, if the Braves offense can put up 2-3 games where they're scoring 5-6 runs and the pitching does enough, and then they have one other game where the pitching somehow holds the Dodgers under 2 runs, they got a chance. It's not out of the question here.
Yeah, the Braves offense is going to have to carry the freight.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. The Braves offense and their bullpen. It has all season long, and it's really going to need to here.
If starting pitching can turn out 3-4 starts and the offense does enough, 6 runs a game or so, I think they can do it.
I need playoff Clayton Kershaw to show up. I need it. Bad. With that all being said, X factors for each team here. I think the X factor for the Braves is Kyle Wright. They're going to need that third starter. He's obviously number 3 in the rotation here. He's going to make or break the Braves in this series because if the Braves only have 2 guys to hang their hats on, they're not going to be able to get it done. We just mentioned that like 12 times, but I figured I'd reiterate it. And on the flip side for the Dodgers, it's Cody Bellinger for me because he had. You're welcome. Thank you, Ryan, for taking. You're welcome for taking all your picks. Because after a very poor regular season, he came alive here in the DS, and I think he needs to continue to come alive because if he's down, you can basically pitch around Mookie Betts in a lot of instances.
Yep, you stole both my guys, Justin. So as a result, I will say X factor for the Dodgers. Let's go. Nah.
Don't do it.
Nah. I'm gonna go Clayton Kershaw. Actually. Was that who you picked, Ryan? Or you
no.
Pick?
No.
Okay. I'll go Clayton Kershaw because, as Justin aptly pointed out again, he hasn't had the best history in the playoffs. Now, he's been better recently. However, when it comes crunch time, if it gets to a Game 6 and he's on the mound, there's going to be some Dodgers fans having a lot of PTSD there. So I'm going to go Clayton Kershaw. If he can turn out a good starter, too, that's going to be an X factor for the Dodgers. As for the Braves, let's do league MVP in the future, hopefully, Freddie Freeman. I'm going off your word on that, by the way. I honestly don't know. But looking at stats, I definitely see why. Holy crap. He turns out...
He is the front runner in the NL MVP race right now. Will he win it because Tatis and Betts are the sexier picks? I don't know. I think Betts is probably number 2 right now, but Freddie should win it.
Yeah, I'm looking at stats. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Rely on the stars. The Braves are going to be scoring a lot of runs, and he and Acuna are going to be at the center of that, particularly Freeman, if he wants to win MVP.
Yeah. My picks, I'm going to go with Kenley Jansen out of the bullpen. He kind of imploded in Game 2 for the Dodgers. We talked about their bullpen is probably their weakest link. Having him back in prime form would really go a long way for them. I'm not super worried about their bullpen, but that would definitely, outside of Bellinger, I think he's their biggest question mark this series. And Bellinger's actually picked it up towards the end of the regular season and in the playoffs. He's played a lot better. For the Braves, I'm going to have to piggyback off Kyle Wright. He's just too much of a glaring. I mean, they're going to hit They've got studs in the lineup. Maybe you can say d'Arnaud, Duvall, but we talked about their pitching being the biggest question mark, and Kyle Wright pitching like he did in the DS will go a long way for them.
Are they skipping any days
Nope.
in the series? If you said no, that's oof. I was gonna say if they skipped a day, you could probably double up. Yeah, that's unfortunate for the Braves. But I think you're right about Kyle Wright. Let's just hypothetically speaking, let's say the Dodgers and Braves split Game 1, Game 2 with the Braves' best two arms. Okay, now you have Game 3 come around. If you could steal a game the Kyle Wright pitches, oh my gosh, that's huge. Because now you could potentially win the series with your Fried-Anderson combination later on, and give yourself a chance even if that doesn't happen. That's gigantic.
Bingo. With that being said, Braves in 5.
Oof! Wow.
Problem is, Kyle Wright will likely be facing Dustin May.
That's fine. Braves in 5.
But yeah.
I will give the Dodgers the game where we have to start Husker Yanoa. And other than that, Braves in 5.
Going off that, I'll go Dodgers in 5.
Yeah, sorry, Justin. I'm going to have to go Dodgers in 5.
It's okay. At least my team is here.
It's not that I'm rooting against the Braves. I mean, I really don't care. But, yeah.
This is the first time on this podcast that I, as a Braves fan, can talk crap about anything going on in the playoffs. Okay, this is the first time. Anytime I talk about anything, I get 27 rings and we won a World Series this century. This is the first time I can finally say something. Go Braves.
I'm sorry. I have to root against the Braves now. We can't have that, Justin. We need to be able to make that argument.
Yeah, this is the first time I can really hang my hat on anything. Thank goodness. Go Rays. Thank you, Rays, for beating the Yankees. Ooh, that feels good. That feels good. My ego is more inflated than it usually is now.
Hey, if the Braves beat the Dodgers, you have to believe they would be thinking they already got the hard part out of the way, and they'd be right. Because you look at a matchup against 29-31 Houston Astros, or Tampa Bay is really good, but they're not Dodgers good. Yeah, that looks pretty tempting.
Yeah, I agree. Final thoughts on the playoffs before we kind of wrap it up?
So, this came to my mind earlier. I wanted to bring it up, but this is a good time to now. Looking at how the MLB did the playoff system this year, it worked out pretty freaking well. I have to give it to them. The 8 teams, so just think about this in a normal year. 60 games, everyone's saying it's small sample size. So what did MLB do? They expanded to 8 teams, which is perfect. Because now you get a team who normally would not make the playoffs, like the Houston Astros, making it. And I think I think that we can all agree that they're at least a playoff team.
Yeah.
So that worked out very well. You included teams that probably wouldn't normally make it. The only downside is you had the central teams playing only other central teams. So in a normal year, probably only the division winners would make it from the central division. But ignoring all that, it was the 3-game series to begin was really fun. The DS series were fun. Teams that got in should have gotten in, and the teams that should be in the CS series got the CS series. So big thumbs up.
Yeah, I didn't mind it.
Yeah, we didn't have a 1 or 2 seed lose in the first round, and we, like you said, the Astros kind of snuck in a season that they wouldn't have normally made the playoffs. And if we had a 60-game season last year, the Nationals, who were our World Series champion, would not have even made the playoffs. I don't think even in an expanded format. And so it's tough in 60 games. I would be okay with the 18 playoff going forward. I think it's great, but it's worked out well, yeah.
Now, that's not to say, I'm... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I have to sleep on going to the 4, maybe 6 for me, because I really didn't like the Brewers were in it, or whoever the 8 seed was in the NL. Who was the 8 seed in the NL?
I think it was the Brewers. Actually, it was the Brewers.
Yeah. And then Cincinnati was a 7. Who was the 8 in the AL?
Toronto.
Yeah.
AL's a little better.
Yeah, AL's a little better, but even then, Toronto wasn't a playoff team. Milwaukee wasn't a playoff team. I'd have to sleep on it, but it did turn out better than I expected.
So, I'm not saying that just because the teams that quote should have made it to the CS means this worked out well. That's not what I'm saying. Upsets are always good and fun. We need that. But I'm just saying that I think the format worked pretty well this time. As to your point, Justin, I 100% agree. 6 teams I think would be perfect. You get the 2 teams get a bye. The other 2 teams play a one game wild card series. to make it like it's not a super big disadvantage, but it's still a disadvantage to have to play that one extra game, and then you have the DS series. But yeah,
I don't think that would work. Because I don't think a division winner should have to play a 1-game wild card in the first round.
I think it's better than just.
I feel like that's a step backwards.
I'd rather have 6 teams in the playoffs than 5. I think 6 is just.
We can have 6. I'm fine with that, but don't give the first 2 teams a bye and then make the 3 seed play a 1-game playoff.
Well, now you have to have. I don't know. How else would you do it with 6 teams?
I'm not sure.
Right.
3-game series, just not a 1-game playoff.
Well, that's a huge disadvantage. But that's details. But yeah, so 6 teams sounds good to you as well, Ryan.
As long as you're not making the 3 seed play a 1-game playoff, yeah.
Okay. That's fair. That's a fair point. I don't know. But yeah, so the fact that Phillies almost made the playoffs with like a 1-8 record in the last 9 games, I think that was kind of an indicator to me that 8 teams is too much. Because if you watched anything Phillies baseball this year, they weren't anywhere close to a playoff team. But yeah.
Yep. Ryan, final thoughts?
I'm sad.
Suck it.
Yeah.
Go Braves. I'm gonna relish this podcast.
I've had nothing but playoff heartbreak in my
2009
in what encompasses my reasonable memory.
You don't remember when you were 11 years old?
Gabe, I was 10 and not overly well, no.
Wow.
Gabe, not everyone grew up doing 3 things. Doing 2 hours of schoolwork because they were homeschooled.
Oh, please stop it.
Playing 2K8 until your brain fried, and then watching every pitch to Phillies.
I was only allowed to play Xbox on the weekends. You forget how strict my parents were. I did way more than 2 hours of work a day. And yes, the last one is true.
There we go.
While y'all were watching SpongeBob, I watched sports because that was weird. But yes.
Oh boy. Again, I tweeted out, but 50th episode, kind of wild.
Wow.
We've already passed the anniversary year point. Obviously, we've taken a couple weeks in between episodes before due to schoolwork or whatever. But we have hit the halfway to 100 milestone, which is kind of weird to think about, honestly. Big shout out to any supporters who continue to listen. We're actually doing a lot better than I expected to, as we're averaging like 10 to 15 viewers every episode without me going super above and beyond other than the tweets that I send out. So shout out to anyone listening. We really appreciate it. But that's my final thought. Go Braves. Braves in 5. Dodgers can suck it. Ronald Acuna is God. Ozzy Albies is Jesus. Welcome to the show.
Stop striking out 4 times if you're going to talk trash, though.
Let's not talk about that. Thank you guys for tuning in, though. We'll catch you guys next week.